Good morning, everybody. I am so excited to be here again this morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm going to give LinkedIn a chance to warm up. I'm going to open up the app on my phone. I am so excited to be here today. Good morning if you're viewing from Facebook. Good morning to my YouTube family. So excited to be here. And I am going to get started in about 1 minute. Here it is. I'm going to get started in just 1 minute. In just 1 minute, I am going to get started. It's always interesting trying to pull this thing up on my cell phone, my iPhone, um, to make sure that I can get started in just 1 minute. To make sure that I can see and read comments, to make sure everything is going well, and to make sure everybody is good. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, as you all can see, I am not in my home. I am in Boston for my final speaking engagement of the year. This has been a whirlwind year of speaking. And little known fact, people are like, how long have you been doing this? Y'all already know my joke. My running joke is tell people how old you are. So -1. So I've been speaking for 40 years, but yeah, professionally getting paid to keynote and getting paid to speak. I took my first speaking engagement, I think it was August of last year. So I have completed a full cycle plus of being, no, that's not true. It was 2022. Oh my gosh. 2022, August 2022, I officially became a professional paid speaker. Took my first keynote January of 2023, and it has just been an amazing experience. I don't know how many speaking engagements I have done this year. Uh, I'm thinking close to 40 or so. The top of the year is always really busy and then it starts to taper off. So, yes, I am calling in live from Boston. So, good morning, everybody. So glad you're here. Today, I want to talk about niching down like Jesus because I think so often the niche down conversation is held in the secular space, but no one's really talking about it in the biblical sense. And so, today, I want to talk about what it looks like to brand and rebrand yourself as a Christ follower. And so we are going to take, like I said, the next 30 minutes. I'm trying to cut these to 30 when it's just me. But next week, I'm going to bring someone else on and she's going to talk about finances inside your business as well. So, one of the things that happened when I first got the vision to start my business is I didn't really listen or I didn't really understand what it was God was calling me to do. So if you followed any part of my journey, like 2 years ago, I got the vision to start this business. And I said, okay, God, I don't know what this means, but okay, fine. But I didn't actually do what God told me to do. God said, start a business for women of faith who are in the workplace. Now, the workplace broadly, I thought he meant women who are in jobs, but really he meant women entrepreneurs. And so I get this vision and I don't know what to do with it. And so I push it to the side. And so today, I want to suggest today for all of us here that maybe the reason why our niche isn't working is because we are not in full alignment with the vision. Maybe we have a fear of losing clients. We have a fear of showing up and no one's there. We have a fear of starting over again in midlife, right? For those of us who are over 40 or over 50 and thinking, oh my gosh, do I really have to start again? Maybe we've relied too heavily on mainstream media to tell us what our businesses should look like. And so we start focusing on the skills gap that the secular world tells us we have rather than on our spiritual gifts. And so I want to suggest today that God will always call who he is qualified. And he qualifies us through so many ways, through our gifts, through our talents, through our spiritual gifts. Okay. He makes sure that our gifts make room for us to serve and do well and be well. So if this is you, I want to suggest today that instead of focusing on names and titles and what the industry experts say, that we need to think differently about how we're building our brand and our business, because ultimately our brand is the memory that we leave behind. Our brand is not that title that people are giving us. And I said this last week, right? There was over 50 titles given to Jesus, right? Because people saw different parts of his ministry. So if this is you and you believe your business is a ministry, let's jump in. So I unsuccessfully tried to niche down and brand when I first started my business. I did the brand hack quizzes. I did the tips and the tricks. I read the books. I did the thing. I followed the experts, and then got pretty I got pretty successful, but nothing that felt really authentically me. I did the standard, who I am, here's how I serve statement. And it just didn't feel like it was the fullness of who I was. It felt really small and really limiting. And I started studying more people. I said, well, it's working for, Tony Roberts, it's working for Mel Robbins, it's working for these other people. Why isn't it working for me? Maybe you're like me and you've gotten to a place, this midlife place, like I said, and you assume that everything that you've done or lived through or went through feels more like a hodgepodge of disjointed experiences rather than something that's leading you onto a path, right? And in those redirection moments, we think, oh, here God goes again, redirecting me, or here, this thing isn't working. It must be me. And we start blaming ourselves. We say, well, I'm the problem. And you might be, but more likely it is God redirecting you so that you can walk a straight and narrow path. I was talking to a client recently about niching down, and she said it feels really small. And I said, but that's not what niching down is. When you niche down, your runway becomes so long, you have no choice but to look forward. You have no choice but to be on the straight and narrow. Okay. I was also talking with another client, and at the time we were talking about how to develop her signature talk and what that might look like for her. And she said, Sybil, I really thought my only three options were to get another degree, stay miserable in my job, or to take a pay cut, to reduce my prices, to not price to my value. She thought that those were the only three options for her in business. But I want to suggest to you that there is a fourth way, a fourth door, the bonus door. Because if you're functioning in what God's will is for you, then the provision is already there, right? Like the supply will always come before our need. So maybe you're tired of not getting all the likes. Maybe you're tired you haven't hit your follower, count, which I really could care less about my follower count. I want quality over quantity. That's someone else's business model to have 100,000 people. I would rather a group of faithful people who need my help and who I know I can serve at the highest level. But today I want to suggest to you that the vision that God has given for you, the provisions are already there if you allow them to come into the fold. So like I said, 2 years ago, God told me to do this work. God said, Sybil, go serve women of faith, go in the workplace, go spread the gospel. And I said, God, you have got to be kidding me. Okay. I'm not a pastor, God. I'm not a minister. Like, I read my scripture, but that's for me. That's not for everybody else. I never thought my spiritual gift was evangelism. Right. I was like, God, this is not my life. And I said, fine, I'll do it. So I started writing a book on spiritual gifts, and then I put it aside. I was like, God's talking about spiritual gifts is not fun. Like, it's cute and all, but it's not really fun for me to talk about spiritual gifts. And he said, no, this is what I really want you to write about. And I was like, I've never written a book, God. I've never published that's non-academic. I started launching all my nevers, right? Never, never, never. And what God helped me realize is it's not imposter syndrome if you've never done a thing. It's called purpose if he's calling you to do a thing, even if you haven't seen those gifts manifested, right? Sometimes God is waiting on us to just take that next best right step. And so I delayed, right? I pushed the book aside. I didn't try to serve women of faith. I started doing my own thing. Meanwhile, I'm trying to find my niche. Okay. I did what the world said to do. I found a book. I found a coach. I did all of the things that the world told me to do. And the world said, Sybil, you're supposed to be a life coach. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be a life coach? I don't know how I feel about this. This does not make sense. Good morning. Good morning. I see more people joining in. Good morning. And I was like, I like people's life. I want them to have a happy life, but life coach didn't quite seem to fit. And so I did what any faithful follower of Christ did. I called God out. I was like, God, you told me to quit my job. I did. I didn't want to quit my job. I just bought my house that you told me to buy. And why isn't this business that you told me to start working? And so he put a scripture in my heart. And I turned away again, right? I was like, but God, I've never done this before. I've never done a talk show. I've never done LinkedIn Lives. I've never done all those things. I've never preached. I'm not a pastor. Why does my business have to be a ministry? You see, what I realized in that moment is so often we say we are waiting on God and God is actually waiting on us. And so I delayed my blessing again. I started to do it. Here we go again. I'm niching down just in a different way. So now instead of life coaching, I shift gears. I find another coach, and that coach says, ooh, Sybil, you just need to stick to what you're good at, what you're an expert at. You need to write resumes and do LinkedIn profiles. Now, y'all, I don't mind helping with LinkedIn profiles and resumes and all of those things, but is that my sweet spot? No. I brought Brenda Meller here on a couple of weeks ago to talk about that. She's on fire for LinkedIn. I'm not. I will help it, but that's not what I want to do. I got some more clients though, right? I got clients. I increased my rates a little bit more, but it still felt off for me. I still was really miserable. And I think when we're going through that business roller coaster, when we're going through all of these pivots and transitions, we forget the ultimate thing that God is, right? God is a provider. And I think this is what happened to me. I started confusing God's provision for business success because things were happening. I was getting paid to speak. I was getting keynotes. I was flying across the US. I was exhausted, but it was happening. I had clients, but they were a horrible fit. And so I did what I do best. I went back to God. But this time I'm like big mad. Okay. Like I'm not little mad. I'm big mad. I'm like, God, I can't believe you brought me these horrible clients. And so God took them away. And for the next almost 3 months, I had no new business coming in. And I'm like, wait a second. I quit my job. I did the things. What's really happening here? And that's when God really had to start working on me in my business. And this is the work that no one talks about. No one talks about the work on you that has to happen so that you can go out and serve. God had to humble me. And God said, these are the fruits of the spirits. Here's how you're supposed to serve. Here's what your business is supposed to look like. And up until that moment, because God had been whispering me the whole time and I already knew what it meant, God said, and I don't know if my boyfriend is on here because he already knows I don't like patience. Patience is not the fruit of the spirit that I wanted to work on. And I knew if I prayed for patience, God was going to put me through a test. And I was like, God, I really don't feel like any more tests. And he said, okay, well, you can either be prideful or you can learn how to be patient. And so that night, I prayed over my business differently. And I said, God, fine, you have it. It's yours. And God was like, well, good. That's what I wanted in the first place. You got it. I prayed for patience, not only for myself, but also how clients would come into my business, how my niche would evolve, how I would really be called to serve in purpose. And that changed the entire trajectory of how I do everything in my business moving forward. Now, all of a sudden, things are happening. Revenue is being generated in ways I didn't even imagine. You see, during this time while I was trying to niche down, and focus on the business, God wanted me to focus on what he wanted me to do, which he had already told me 2 years ago. Each time I started to niche down, he was pruning a behavior that did not belong in my business so that I could have a successful business, so that I could find the people who need me, so that I could serve at the highest level. God began to convict me of my complaining because I was complaining about everything in my business that was going wrong. Yet, right, I never was without a provision. My mortgage never went unpaid. I always had food. I always had support. I always had people around me. And so he really had to show me all of the ample supply that already existed in my world if I would have accepted it. And then he filled my cup with the things that belong in a faith-filled business. You see, in business, we believe that the niche is the name or the title, but really niching down is about the memories that we are leaving behind. What are those memories that people get every single time we are in service to them? And is it a standard we can live by and set ourselves for and never drop below? And so as you continue in your niche down journey, I want you to ask yourself, are you consistently focusing on those parts of your business so that you can serve at the highest level and continue to be well? That of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness. And Lord, he also had to work with me on my self-control. Because again, right, self-control comes in so many ways. It's not just addiction to drugs or alcohol. It's addiction to TV. It's addiction to doom scrolling. It's addiction to living in envy of other people's gifts and how they serve and their successes. All of those are forms of lack of self-control. And so it did take me almost 2 years to come full circle back to where God had called me to in the first place, right? To show that niching down takes submission to a higher calling than the one that you have for yourself. Can your business be joy filled, even if things don't make sense? Even if you need a client so badly because you really are scraping for money, can you still have joy every day in how you serve? Can you be at peace with whatever the outcomes are from sales conversations or uncomfortable conversations? Which means you're able to detach from the outcomes because God isn't going to give you anything less than his best. When he took all those clients away, I also breathed a sigh of relief because I didn't enjoy working with them in the first place, right? I enjoyed the income, but I was like, they're getting on my whole ass nerves. Are you willing to fire your clients to protect your niche and your brand? That is the place that I'm at in my business. I am willing to fire clients because it is bad for business. It is bad for my brand. It is bad for my niche to do anything with them because it's not pleasing to God and it's not helping me to seek God's kingdom first. Are you able to be patient with the process so that you can continue to learn more about what your full vision and purpose look like, right? To be kind in your business. And again, having this conversation last night, hilarious, right? To be full with kindness and not niceness. The Bible doesn't say the fruits of the spirit is niceness. It says kindness, right? So shout out for everybody who believes in being kind. And being kind means telling your clients what they need to hear, even if it's a difficult conversation. Kindness is setting your rates so that you feel good at the end of the day of how you are serving and who you are serving. To exercise gentleness not only with others, but also yourself through self-care. Also a thing. During that year of me not following direction, I remember I was not gentle with myself. I traded a 20-hour workday in corporate for 20-hour days as an entrepreneurship. I denied myself time with my friends. I denied myself having a significant other in my life who would support me. I was like, oh, I don't have time to date, no relationships, no entertainment, no nothing. I literally was punishing myself because I wasn't earning what I thought I should have by the deadline that I gave myself. And I started telling myself that I didn't deserve, that I was unworthy because The experts say if you don't make $1 million, you shouldn't go out to eat, or you shouldn't have any fun, or you shouldn't watch TV. This journey is about balance, and it's about figuring out how to be the fullness of yourself without compromise. And so as I came back full circle, I started saying, I get to date again. Shout out to my boyfriend. He's probably on the call right now. I started living my life again. I started visiting my family again. And y'all, I did it without jumping into buckets of cold ice every morning. I see so many gurus who talk about they do ice baths first thing in the morning to shock their system. No, I jump into God's word every morning. That's how I jumpstart my day. I don't need 10 below zero to build up momentum for my day. I jump into God's word and I meditate and I pray and I ask one question: God, how do you want me to serve today? What is the highest level of service I can do? That's how my niche got rebuilt. And to have self-control as an entrepreneur, on the days where I feel lazy or unmotivated or lackluster, on the days where my brand doesn't feel up to par for me because I don't feel like putting on makeup, or I'm traveling and I just spent an entire day of travel and then I'm going to show up at 8 a.m. and try to be my best version of myself. On the days where I need to lean in differently into my business so that people continue to get the best parts of me. Or to have self-control in your finances so that old financial mindsets and money habits don't creep back in, because our families in churches told us that to love money is evil. And it's like, yes, the love of money, but it does not say money is evil. Money is a tool that can be and should be used for kingdom building, right? These are the ways we are called as Christians to niche down, and the names will come. People will know what to call you when you start showing up and serving at the highest level. Your niche will find you. That is what I have learned. When you are getting that vision, when you're stepping in your purpose, your niche will always find you. Those names and titles will be great. You'll be grateful when people call you a speaker, a preacher, a teacher, an author, and all of those things, right? But what if you decided that your niche was not those what I am called, but what I am known for? I want to be known as being a follower of Christ. I want to be known as a woman who is filled with the fruits of the Spirit. I want to be known like Jesus, right? Those active words that Jesus had: teacher, wonderful counselor, light, author, creator, prophet. Oh, that's what I want to be known for. That's my niche. And if that is you, then I want you to think, are you called to teach even if you feel like you've never taught before? Are you called to counsel even though you don't have a counseling degree? Are you an author and you've never really penned a book? We are all, as entrepreneurs, called to create. That's the assignment. And as an entrepreneur, and I know people are afraid of the word profit, but right, you got to have a vision if you're in business, right? Your prophetic word might be that you are casting a vision for your industry that's never been done before. So often we want to instantly be known as the thought leader and the authority. But I truly believe that God is not going to help you to be seen as the authority until you understand the power and purpose that comes along with being in authority, until he's sure you're not going to be injurious to others or yourself. You see, I really believe we are at an entrepreneurial crossroad where God really is calling so many of us to activate, to call out the foolishness that is corporate America, to call out the nonsense that says that you have to live a life of imbalance. We've seen what that looks like. It looks like depression and anxiety and hypermedication and overdoing everything in the workplace. So I really think that as you consider your niche, and I'm about to wrap up because, like I said, 30 minutes or less, this is what we're doing, that once you find that purpose, if God has already given you that vision, that it is your assignment to stay the course of the niche and serve at whatever your highest level is until the vision is revealed, to be comfortable with those incremental steps that are required to build that global business that you have already set a vision for, to find communities that are going to support you, because your niche is also your community. When I started to niche down, I realized that there were some people, some big names I simply couldn't follow anymore because it did not align with what God was sending my way. And so I had to unfollow and unsubscribe and unmatch with people who I had historically thought were the right people for me to follow. And I was like, no, those are not the people. I had to find new communities of faith-filled women, because as much as I wanted to serve, I also needed to be poured into as a follower of Christ. That was also a part of the niche down exercise. So don't think that the niche down is just the I am, I serve, blah statement. It is so much more. It is the fullness of who you keep around and who you allow to be around you. It is in the words that you speak. It is in the actions that people have. It is in your social media posts. And again, it is leaning into being more like Christ. There are a lot of big name coaches that are in these streets, and if y'all have experienced their coaching, for better or worse, right? They've got a message, they've got a platform, right? And they say, "Oh, you need to build your business like King Solomon." And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to build my business like King Solomon. I'm going to build my brand like Jesus, because the Bible didn't call me to be like King Solomon. It said you need to be more like God. You need to be more like Jesus. You need to be a follower of Christ. Then incongruent message. I'm not going to be over here. I'm going to be over here, right? This is what we are called to do if we are going to step into purpose, if we are going to step into the fullness. So for all of my multi-passionate creators on here today, know that every single experience that you have led to this moment, and you get to intersect them in a new way that the market needs, that the people who you are called to serve needs. And so that is the message for today. So like I said, 4 minutes left. Thank y'all for attending this morning. Next week, we're going to talk about profiting like Jesus, because Jesus was not broke. Okay. Jesus was wealthy. Jesus was wealthy. Jesus was amply supplied from birth. And so we're going to talk about profiting like Jesus. We're going to talk about the energy and spirit of money, and how to disconnect from feeling unworthy to receive. All right. Thank y'all for attending. Love comments. Looking forward to connecting with you on the other side. See you soon.